I've lost count of how many diets you've tried and honestly just feel exhausted of the thought of even trying another one. But at the same time, you're feeling unmotivated, lethargic, and honestly burnt out. And on top of that, you don't like how your body is looking and feeling right now. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why diets don't work and what to do about it instead of wasting more of your precious time so that you can get the results that you want without needing to sacrifice your life and your mental health in the process. If you've ever had thoughts such as, I'll start again on Monday, I just need more willpower and discipline, then this video is for you. The reason why diets haven't worked for you, not because you're lacking discipline and willpower, but it's got more to do with how they actually disconnect you from yourself and your body. And if you're new around here, hi, I'm Hetty and I'm a personal trainer and women's health, wellness and confidence coach. And I know this cycle very, very well because I was actually stuck in it for just over 10 years. During that time, I've honestly felt so disconnected from myself and my body, and my habits and behaviours around food honestly just felt so chaotic. Also really felt really isolating as well because how I ate in private was very different to how I would eat in front of people. So people would see how I ate on the outside and would tell me, oh, you eat very healthy, but inside my mind I was always thinking, oh my god, like I'm completely out of control. I just really felt completely disconnected and I just felt really embarrassed and ashamed of how I was eating in private. Ultimately, it felt like I was just pushing and trying so hard but getting nowhere fast. The points that I'm gonna list out in this video, if I'd have known all of this, I would have been able to stop this whole cycle a hell of a lot sooner. So this video is exactly what I wish I'd have known back all those years ago when I was struggling with my relationship with food. All of the points that I'm going to list out in this video are exactly what I have done myself that's been able to get me to the point of which I'm at now as somebody who has a healthy, balanced relationship with food, but also still feels healthy, energized and confident in my body as well. No longer controls and dictates my life anymore. And this is also the process that I take my clients through so that they can achieve the same thing. Be sure to listen to point number 3 as well because that is going to blow your mind a little bit. Without further ado, let's go into firstly, why don't diets work? Reason number 1, and don't mind me, we've just come into a different room and changed scenery, but reason number 1 is diets are not sustainable. You may actually intuitively know this already. Studies have shown that over 95% of people who have done diets regain the weight and plus more over the course of 1 to 5 years. Within that time frame, people who have lost weight on a diet regain that weight over the course of 1 to 5 years. Really think about that. That is a high statistic. Like 95% is a large failure rate. The other reason why diets fail is because most of the time they are rooted in short-term quick fixes. They often rely on rigid, restrictive rules and all or nothing way of thinking, such as thinking that some foods are really good for us and some foods are really bad for us, which then causes a very unhealthy mindset when it comes to those kinds of foods, which then usually leads to people feeling very guilty and very shameful when and if they start to eat certain foods. For example, when the willpower starts to fade or the excitement of the new diet starts to fade. For instance, one day you eat something that is on the bad food list, suddenly then you feel this overwhelming sense of guilt and shame and panic that all of your hard work on the diet is going to go out of the window and you're going to regain all of this weight back. So it causes a very unhealthy relationship and mindset when it comes to food and nutrition. Another big key factor that I think often gets overlooked when it comes to diets is they don't take into account long-term lifestyle and also your values. For example, if one of your values may be you really do want to feel good in your body and healthy in your body, but at the same time you also really value travel and connection and hosting family gatherings and trying new experiences and connection. You jump on a really restrictive diet, then you are then in a position where you're needing to sacrifice your big values, that's something that's really important to you, such as travel and trying different foods and having experiences with family and friends, then needing to sacrifice those really important values of yours in order to maintain this unrealistic diet. When we put it into perspective, the diet is not going to last long term because our two values are in conflict with each other. So in this scenario, what we actually need to do is have a way where we're achieving both of our important values and get into a position where we are achieving a goal that is important to one of our values, but also benefits other values that we have in our life. The second point is diets usually disconnect us from our body. So counting calories, restrictive dieting, clean eating, intermittent fasting, these are all ways that we are actually becoming very disconnected to our own body's hunger cues. We become so heavily focused on numbers, looking if a food is good, bad, clean, or unhealthy. From that position, we then start to feel really disconnected and we don't recognize when our body's feeling full, when our body is feeling satisfied, how certain food groups actually may affect us and how we feel. Putting restrictive rules and telling ourselves that certain foods are off limits only increase your focus, intensity and cravings of that food even more. And you've probably experienced this yourself. I, for example, I can't even tell you how many diets I've been on, and each time I would tell myself, okay, I'm not going to eat this anymore, I'm going to cut out carbs, and I could only last a certain amount of time until I reached a point where I just overeat on the exact foods that I was trying to avoid. Restricting our calories too low and eating too low for our body, usually these restrictive diets start to trigger a biological and psychological backlash where our body then starts to actually fight back from the restriction. And I talked a lot about this in previous other videos, so I am going to link those down in the description box below, where I dive into exactly the science of how that happens, particularly with our metabolism. But what happens when we restrict our calories too low, we have certain hormone fluctuations such as ghrelin and leptin, which are basically the hormones that signal that we are satisfied after eating. Ghrelin, which is a hunger hormone, so when ghrelin rises, so does our appetite. There's also other hormones that start to fluctuate, which is neuropeptide Y, which starts to increase as well, which basically drives our urges, cravings towards high carbohydrates and high sugar. So usually a lot of the women that come to me always say that they have this strong desire of sugar, they can't stop eating sugar. This is one of the main causes of that, because our hormones are literally fighting against the restriction that we're actually putting in place. Now also, as we restrict harder and as we lower calories more and more, or we eat less and less, this has a massive negative effect on our metabolism. And I'm going to link the videos down in the description box below that I speak about metabolisms and in the science of that. What happens to our metabolism is it starts to adapt and it starts to slow down, match the amount of calories that we're now taking in. So with all of those other hormones that have started to increase and decrease, so now our hunger is heightened. Leptin levels, which have now dropped, which basically make us feel not satisfied after each meal we have. Maybe you can relate to this, but I personally found this a lot, that when I was dieting and crash dieting, I would eat a meal and instantly feel like I could just eat 3 more meals and I could just keep on eating. And this is a direct effect of our hormones coming into play. So pair that then with our metabolism is now starting to slow down. So now our body is primed to gain more and more weight, which is usually what happens. This is when people start to compulsively overeat and they can't stick to a diet long enough. The worst part about this is they start blaming themselves, and it is not their fault. It is literally your body's primal instinct and it is starting to work against you. So in short, our hormones are now working against us and our metabolism is now adapted. This is called adaptive thermogenesis, where our body is now burning less and less calories at rest. And this is all down to the effect of dieting and why diets don't work and actually make us gain weight more in the long run. The next reason is, I've kind of touched on this already, but this causes the restrict and overeating cycle that I'm sure we all know very well, where we can have 1 minute where we feel really on point with our nutrition and we're sticking to a diet, and then one day happens, maybe we feel really stressed, overwhelmed, or the cravings for sugar just completely take over us, where we feel like we can't get the food fast enough in our mouth. We're just eating and eating and eating, and then that's when the guilt and the shame kicks in, and that's when the cycle begins again, where we think, oh my god, I'm so out of control, I need to diet again, or I need to diet harder, I need to find another new diet. But the problem is this keeps us stuck in that cycle, and the cycle doesn't end unless we do something differently. I also want to mention that, and I talked about this in a separate video, so I will link it down in the description box below, where I talk about the aspects of extreme hunger. But here I've just mentioned all of kind of the physical aspects of just kind of wanting to eat more and more and all of that kind of thing. But also, let's not ignore the fact that when our bodies are in this state, not only do we feel more hungry, but our brain is actually primed to focus more on food. And I have this conversation so much with clients where they tell me that they feel obsessed with food. It's like they can't stop thinking about food, or they feel like always craving sugary hit. And as I mentioned earlier, certain hormones such as neuropeptide Y actually increases our desire and drive for high calorie foods and high carb foods, high sugar, which is exactly why we end up feeling completely crazy when it comes to chocolate and sweets and sugar. So we've talked about the science of why diets don't work and how they actually prime our bodies to gain weight more in the long run. What we're meant to do then, if we still have a strong desire to look and feel different when it comes to our body. Now, one of the first things that I want to touch on here is the importance of shifting our mindset from diet culture and almost literally divorcing from the idea of diet culture, because diet culture is sold this idea that in order to feel healthy, confident, lean, happy, healthy, energized in our body, that in order to do that we need to eat as little as possible, and we need to eat perfectly, and we need to eat as little calories as possible.
Is butter a carb?
And even giving us these ideas of calorie goals as well that honestly don't work for half of the population, or the same for every single individual. So why people are looking at these numbers and thinking I must eat that amount, when actually a lot of the time that number or that diet, that way of eating is so out of balance, out of alignment to how we actually want to feel. Because when we think about feeling confident and healthy and happy in our body, we want to feel energized, and we want to have the energy to do the things that we want. But diets are actually pulling us further and further away of how we actually want to feel, because in doing so, we're restricting our calories more and more, we're restricting our food intake more and more. So actually, it's just leaving us feeling tired, food obsessed, hungry all of the time. Which leads me on to point number one. So point number one is ditching the all or nothing mindset when it comes to food, nutrition, and our bodies as well, and how our bodies function. Letting go of this idea that we and the way that we eat needs to be perfect, or it needs to look how it looks like on social media, because ultimately perfection does not exist. What we see on social media isn't always real. It's not a true representation of what we as an individual should be eating like. In order to create long-term results that are actually sustainable and you're able to maintain for the long run, because let's be real, if you're wanting to achieve results and feel good in your body, don't you want to do something that actually you can see yourself doing for the long run? If you went on this diet, could you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life? Because essentially, if you're going on a diet to achieve a certain amount of weight loss, you are going to need to commit to that for the rest of your life, essentially. So we need to get brutally honest with ourselves and think, actually, can I see myself doing this for the long term? And does it make me feel good? Do I actually feel energized? Do I actually feel really excited by the food and the lifestyle that this is creating? This is why we need to build something that is sustainable and maintainable for the long run. And in order to do that, habits is the key to achieving this, not even just within the health and fitness world, but also anywhere in life. We don't just get somewhere straight away. We have to take small pieces of action over time, and over time that starts to build up into healthy habits, but then something that we can maintain for the long run. don't do this, then the same thing is just going to keep repeating itself, where the moment we slip up or the moment that we don't stick to the perfect plan, then we're going to throw the towel in, we're going to give up, because we then feel guilty, we then feel ashamed of ourselves, and we feel even further away from where we want to be. By focusing on small, sustainable habits, for example, this could be just increasing your step count, or could be going for a walk every day, or drinking more water. And the power of habits is going to be the most powerful thing that you ever do for not just your health and fitness goals, but any area in life. This is how a lot of my clients have been able to achieve amazing life long-term goals, such as fat loss and healing their relationship with food, because it is not rooted in quick fixes and unsustainable and unrealistic habits and behaviors, and something that goes against not only their lifestyle but also their values as well. And this, our long-term approach has really got to match up with the lifestyle that we want to live. And for me, for example, one of my values is travel, and I absolutely love traveling to different places and trying different foods, and also doing that with family and hosting meals, going out for meals and things like that. So it came to a point where all of these diets were actually taking me away from a big value of mine, because whenever I would travel, I would feel so restricted and so in my own head, but also I wasn't able to just be and live my life and enjoy meals out, because I felt so guilty, or I felt like I needed to micromanage everything. Focus on progress over perfection and consistency over perfection. Focus on habits that are doable for the long term, such as increasing the amount of water that you drink, moving your body a few times a week, or eating more balanced, more fruit and veg at every meal, for example. Now, the next point kind of ties in with what I've just spoken about our habits and creating sustainable habits and behaviors, but also taking a look at our behaviors. So what I mean by this is, what is your relationship with food like? What do you notice yourself doing a lot of the time? And what we need to do essentially is get to the root cause of that, because usually a lot of the time our physical body and how we feel is a direct reflection of what's going on with our eating behaviors. Are we noticing that we're using food to emotionally cope or numb out with certain uncomfortable emotions, such as when we've come home from a stressful day at work? What do we normally do? Do we use food as a way to cope with that? Or another example, are we eating for the sake of eating, such as the time of day that are eating, or are we eating for other reasons, such as eating because somebody else is eating, or we feel obliged to eat because somebody else is eating? This is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, of really getting to the root of their eating behaviors and how they start to play out, such as maybe we have a habit of overeating when we are with certain types of people. Again, this comes into play with our internal mindset, our beliefs, our identity. There's so many factors that goes into our behaviors with food. The thing that we really need to do is address the root issues, so our beliefs, our habits, and our behaviors with food, rather than trying to jump on yet another diet, because the diet is never going to get to the root issue. We need to get to the root issue, which is going to solve a lot of our problems when it comes to eating and overeating. And I actually have a free masterclass where I basically break it all down on how you can stop it. I will link that down in the description box below, totally free, and I will link it down below so you can sign up and access that. Again, this kind of ties in with what I spoke about earlier as well. If we're feeling very restricted around food and deprived of food, and we're struggling with aspects of mental hunger, be overeating as well because we feel deprived or because our body's working against us. So there's all these kind of other factors that are going into why we might be eating more than what we may feel physically hungry for, or having the cravings for sugar that we're experiencing. And this is why such a big part of the work that I do is helping clients to understand that they don't need a restrictive diet. In fact, what actually needs to happen is healing the root cause of their eating behaviors, the root cause of their habits with food, and starting to tune into their own body's hunger cues as well, so that they can disconnect from their mind. And actually, when we start to tune back into our body's own hunger cues, that's when things start to change. For example, 2 tuning into your body and recognizing when you are actually hungry and what foods feel good for you. Everybody is so different. Asking ourselves those questions and seeing whether or not certain foods make us feel more energized or more sluggish. This all starts to build more and more self-trust, self-belief in ourselves, and our body starts to feel safe as a byproduct of that. And once our body starts to feel safe that regular food is coming in and it's being nourished, that's when we feel so much better. We feel much more aligned and we feel balanced, and our body's getting the right nutrients, so we feel energized and we feel good. So the next point, we might be on point number 3, but the next point is focusing on nourishment over restriction. A lot of the time diets are in us to focus on eating less and counting numbers and feeling restricted, whereas what happens when we actually start to fuel our bodies properly with good balanced nutrition, our body then starts to feel energized and it's getting all of the key nutrients and vitamins and minerals and energy that it needs to thrive. We start to have more energy, our mood starts to improve, I feel less tired and less fatigued. I'm not feeling super sluggish. Instead, we're feeling happy, our mood improves, we're feeling energized, which then allows us then to focus on other areas of our life, whether it be hobbies, family, and have the energy to go and do exercise and workouts and things like that. So it all starts to piece together to feel really good and aligned. Not only that, but this is going to help improve also our body to feel balanced and satisfied. So we're no longer going to have intense cravings for sugar and high fat foods when our body's feeling full and satisfied. And as a result of that as well, our hormones start to regulate. So everything starts to piece together. We feel so much more balanced. So ultimately, we want to focus on eating a whole balanced diet. And the last few points that I want to touch on is working smarter, not harder, when it comes to our workout routine and exercise as a whole, and in habits that are going to help support our digestive process. When it comes to workouts and exercise, and again, I'm going to link the video down below that I talked a lot more about the value of muscle and how this helps improve our metabolism. But essentially what we want to be doing is doing exercise that is going to help support our metabolism for the long term. So things such as weightlifting and building quality muscle, and also building in a workout routine that also promotes and supports rest and recovery. So rest and recovery is also really key when it comes to balancing our weight and feeling really good and energizing, creating the body that ultimately we want to have and feel. If we are training and exercising in a way that constantly puts our body through a state of stress, our body is going to feel dysregulated again, our hormones are going to be out of whack, and essentially we're going to feel really tired, stressed, and our body and nervous system is going to be fighting against us. We might hold on to more water retention, we might feel just really sluggish and slow and fatigued as well. So making sure that our training really complements the results that we want to achieve. So remember, more is not always better, although that's what we may have always believed. And working out in a way that is sustainable for the long term and something that is actually something that we really enjoy. And again, this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients to help them create and build a healthy relationship with not only just food, but also exercise in their lifestyle so that they can maintain the lifestyle that they've achieved, help support them in all aspects of their life. Because I honestly feel like fitness as a whole should be a part of our life, but it shouldn't be the whole focus. You know, we've got other areas of our life that we feel passionate about, for example. So making sure that it fits and creates that sustainable lifestyle that we really ultimately want. The next point I'm just going to touch on is, particularly if you find yourself feeling really tired or bloating or digestion feels really sluggish as well, looking at our habits, and our body is in a constant state of stress, fight or flight, our digestion is going to be affected by that. So ensure that our body isn't in a constant state of fight or flight or stress. So looking at our exercise routines, also making sure that we've got a lot of mindful practices and we're not burning ourselves out in every single aspect of our life. And And this could also be cycle syncing, so as a female who has a period, you know, making sure that we're working with our cycle. Also little habits such as slowing down when we're eating, making sure we're eating much more mindfully and we're not just eating when distracted or trying to eat as quickly as possible. Also rebuilding that connection with our mind and our body as well. And lastly, also including movement in a healthy and balanced way. So this could be just increasing the amount of movement that we're doing day to day, walking more, doing things that we actually enjoy rather than feeling like we've got to do a workout and feeling really unmotivated or pushing ourselves really hard. Instead, moving our body that feels really good and it feels sustainable. These are all ways that are going to massively improve our digestion. And remember, confidence doesn't come from through another restrictive diet. It comes from building a connection with yourself and your body and building up that self-trust with yourself and healing your relationship with food so that you can feel good, healthy and balanced, not only just with food but with fitness as well. All of this starts to create a really balanced approach to your life and one which doesn't honestly take over your life. The problem that I found over the years when I was stuck in this cycle is I just honestly felt like I was constantly in the gym and I was constantly attached to MyFitnessPal and I just felt so trapped. I honestly felt like I was missing out on a huge part of my life because I was so mentally stuck and focused on food and the gym and working out and all of the things. So when we create a really balanced approach, our life gets so much better and we feel good in the process. We start to feel more energized and we start to show up as the version of us that we ultimately want to be, feeling confident in ourselves, feeling energized and good in our body as well. In summary, like what we've spoken about, diets are not failing you because you lack the willpower or the discipline. It's actually because they're built on short-term control, which is the wrong strategy that we want if we want to create results and we want to keep them for the long term. So to summarize, what we want to do is eat in a way that's flexible and enjoyable and moving our body that feels good and also working with your body rather than against it. So working with your metabolism and increasing your metabolism. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I will link all my details down in the description box below if you would like to find more about how you can work with me, and also link the free masterclass on how to stop compulsively overeating you feel really stuck with right now. I will link it down in the description box below. It's totally free to sign up so you can watch it. All of my socials down in the description box below as well. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe if you would like to see more of these kind of videos, and like if you like this video. And again, thank you for joining me and I will see you in the next one.